want to really make sure that everyone feels like they are a part of the conversation. This is something that we interface with regularly. So please do feel free to enjoy this presentation and be a part of it. I don't want to talk too much. I really want to allow all of us to interact the way that we should interact when it comes to some of these conversations. All right. So we can get started here, and I'm going to try to see if I can do something a little different. Just bear with me for a moment. All right. And here we go. I'm going to start playing it. All right. And can we confirm that you're seeing it all? If you can, a few of you can just put a few thumbs up just to see that you're seeing the slides running through them. Perfect, perfect. All right. So the first thing that we want to look into today, we want to kind of speak on, and I want to go back into recapping what we discussed before. This is very important. I'm going to go back to this slide. The most important thing that we need to realize, and I want to really preface this conversation in today's session, is the fact that when we speak of AI and we speak of end times and eschatology, of course, I do not want to jump to a concrete view or concrete take on some of these prophetic things. I usually want to one theologian coined it as could be versus would be, or would be versus could be, and what that means is would be means that it's a concrete description of what is going on versus the could be, which is speculative. And we want to take a speculative view on what is happening because one thing that we know for sure is that we know man knows the time or the hour when Christ shall come. And it could come when all of this technology is at a much different place or a different pace. So we want to be very much aware of that reality. Another thing that I do want to keep in mind is that I know that we all have our varying convictions on the use of some of this technology. But unfortunately, Saints of God, and I mentioned it last week, we interface with artificial intelligence on a daily basis. Your chatbots have um, artificial intelligence nested in them. Your phone, your text, a lot of the Google searches that we do have artificial intelligence nested within them. So we do not want to take a super concrete view of the um, of 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 the end times, and I would definitely submit to you that because we are doing it, it's less about the invention. I know that we discussed the um, the fact that this is a man-made thing. So we should not fear the creation. God's creation is still sovereign. We are God's creation, and we create these things. So we should not fear man's creation as it pertains. What we need to do is be weary and careful, observe what is going on in that. Now, if you feel convicted to not use it, I would honestly say that is going to be quite difficult because, as I mentioned before, we interface and use artificial intelligence and things under artificial intelligence every day. One thing I want to go back to quickly, and we can skip over a lot of the other stuff, is we want to go to the AI, and I'm not going to go over the history, but we want to discuss what AI is for those of us who have missed it. Mind me as I work through the slides. I'm getting a little slowness tonight on my computer for some reason. But we want to say, what is AI? Artificial intelligence is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and eventually autonomy. That is the goal. We broke down the autonomy when we speak, and as I said before, We interface with AI because it is nested in our everyday technology. So let's keep that. I'll be running through that pretty often. Through that, and I'll continuously remind us momentarily as we jump in. We then spoke about the AI and the current situation that it's in right now and the current phase that we are looking at right now, looking to head to, and where individuals want AI to go. We have artificial neural intelligence designed to perform specific tasks. So, right now, in its simplest form, you feed artificial intelligence the task that you want it to perform, and the artificial intelligence will then take this task, gather all of its learning, and give you a result. What we are currently moving towards, what technologists I would say are currently moving towards, is artificial general intelligence, which is it can behave in a human-like way across all tasks. Now, they're actively working to this because, again, mankind is where we are people of ease. We want things to be easy, want things to come easy, and we look for the most efficient way to do things. So if I don't have to touch anything or do research on anything, that now becomes an efficient way that I can gather information that I want to gather. There are problems with that because some of this information can be manipulated, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, according to many technologists and people that do study this field, the first country to get to AGI will get to ASI, which is technology that is smarter than humans. So, artificial super intelligence. Now, we did get into a discussion about, is this possible? Can a man-made creation be smarter than humans? And it's when we have that conversation that we realize that yes, humans are able to, when you assess a human's abilities and you assess a human's brain, we assess the way how humans think and our creativity, we understand that we are sentient beings with a soul and also the flesh. But the intersect that now is as of debate when it comes to the topic of artificial superintelligence is when we speak to sentience. If this artificial intelligence becomes smarter than humans, what does this look like? How is the artificial intelligence able to mimic and then surpass human intelligence? Right now, we're currently in the ANI phase, but if we get to the ASI phase, if we do, that's one thing that we want to keep in mind. Is it possible that it can be more efficient than the human mind? And in a sense, we must be very honest. It quite possibly almost is more efficient than the human mind. Because with the access to the data banks and the deep learning abilities that AI possesses, we can then look into what if it starts to mimic sentience using humanity? Humans feed this information. But what we have to also remember is that human beings of all different heart postures feed this information. And we can look into that as we discuss AI and the man. And those are things that we want to keep in mind. Another thing that we want to keep in mind is now, as of the last year, we did talk about this in depth, and we don't necessarily have to do it right now, but we have a few major developments that have happened in the last year. We have the public availability of AI tools like DeepSeek and ChatGPT, which has been around, that is owned by OpenAI, which is a very popular company owned by a man by the name of Sam Altman. We'll talk about him a little bit later. We also have Apple Intelligence, which, with those of you who have iPhones, if you notice 18.2, your Siri might look a little different. When you say, hey Siri, new call Siri, you'll notice that now you're prompted with a different view. If you go deeper into your settings, you can activate Siri on your phones, on your iPhones, and you are able to then use Siri as a AI as an AI on your personal device to perform multiple tasks. Now, when I say earlier on that it's nested within our devices in our daily lives, you can even look into the fact that AI is able to read texts and proofread your text and take your text and change them into something that might be more palatable. It is AI that is able to do that within seconds. This is all on our phones. But iPhone is not the only, or Apple is not the only company that's able to do that. Google, whose parent company is Alphabet, also introduced Gemini, which is their AI company, which is backed by supercomputers that is able to, in simplicity, take so much more information in and process things so much quicker nowadays than it was even the years before, even the very year before, even a few months before. And there's a constant growth of this happening. And we'll see the importance of this later on. Now, what I wanted to do is I really wanted to start the presentation at this place because this is a good preface to our conversation. Now we ended about here the last time we spoke, but now we are introduced to Willow, the state-of-the-art quantum chip. There's the millions and billions of dollars that are invested into the infrastructure behind artificial intelligence. And when we begin to look into the infrastructure, we start to see that as they're investing this amount of money, we have to start asking ourselves the question, why? And this slide in particular is one slide that I try to take a very important viewpoint on, or a very I try to keep it on my radar. Why are they spending so much money to increase the infrastructure on AI? There's so much poverty in the world. There are so many issues in the world. But they're spending billions of dollars to invest into these quantum chips. We also seen, and those of you who live in America, if you've paid attention, we see that a lot of the CEOs, all of these individuals, Shu, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Tim Cook of Apple, Sundar Pichai, and many more of these big tech CEOs were at Donald Trump's inauguration. We have to ask ourselves the question again, why were they at Donald Trump's inauguration? And one thing I want to highlight, I want you to keep this in mind, is that when we speak of a lot of these big tech individuals, in Donald Trump's last term, a lot of these people were against Donald Trump. In the last year until his inauguration, many of these CEOs invested $1 million US into his campaign. What changed? And one thing that they all said that they have in common, or as to why they have this immediate tone of change in his second term as president of the United States, is because he is going to be able to remove some of the regulation that was happening. So I definitely would want you to keep that in mind. Now that they've announced, Donald Trump is highlighting a partnership investing $500 billion in AI. Now, if you understand the magnitude of $1 billion, can you imagine $500 billion? We're talking about $500 billion. That is generational money that they're investing into the infrastructure of artificial intelligence. But what does this do? This opens the world that is already shrinking because of technology and even pre-existing technology. This is opening the world to competition. And with more competition in the world that we live in, especially with the fact that we understand that the hearts of men are indeed waxing cold, we understand that this competition will breed a loss of regulation. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for the church? We'll discuss this a little bit later. And the next thing that we want to also talk about is the pager explosion in Beirut that happened. We understand that what occurred in that situation was that there was some manipulation of the supply chain of some of these pager explosions. These things were not necessarily touched by majority or majority people that develop and build the things. These things were controlled remotely. I did some studies on it and I noticed that people did play around and mess with the supply chain. Now, if things like this, they can use form factor, we already know, and we're already past the place where there's amazement at the microchip because the microchips are getting smaller. I don't recall, I'm not sure if some of you recall what it was like when the floppy disk came out. And you would put your music, for example, prior to the floppy disk on some of those big CDs. Now you can have your information on a USB stick the size of maybe your pinky. I brought my car keys here. I have this little USB stick. This little USB stick can hold 128 gigabytes of of data. 128 gigabytes. So for those of you who recall what it was like to use a floppy disk that could only hold maybe 3 or so megabytes. Now we have 128 gigabytes on such a small form factor. With the development of artificial intelligence, who to say that they can't go smaller than that to hold a little bit more to hold much more information, say a full terabyte, because the AI can go into the crevices in the corners that the man cannot. And we'll talk about that as well. We also see this is a point of discussion that we had last week. An AI chatbot pushed a teen to kill himself. A lawsuit against its creator alleges. Now, we see where there's a decline in the mental capacity of our generation nowadays. Many of us don't possess I would say, and I mentioned it before, the mental toughness and fortitude that previous generations had before. Why? Because we spend a lot of time on our phones. I coin it brain rot. We are unable to pay attention for a long period of time. Many of our generations we suffer with anxiety. Many of us suffer with attention deficit disorder. Some of these things are helped by the very AI that feeds our social media applications with the algorithms and is able to read our very patterns to see what we like and keep you there scrolling all day. Now, this is quite dangerous because as we begin to discuss AI and the man, we have to realize, and I think we ended off on that note last week, has the phone become our idol? And are we slowly allowing artificial intelligence to take over our homes and our minds? Are we slowly allowing the I would say the cunning behavior of the powers that be to infiltrate our minds and infiltrate how we operate as human beings, especially within a church context as children of God? I did mention last week, sometimes you find it hard to even put your phone down in church. Sometimes we find ourselves in church on social media scrolling through and through because social media has a way of pulling you in. Now, there's not a man that is behind this pulling you in. There's not one person that is necessarily assigned to each person to monitor and feed them with the information. These things are built through algorithms that are fed by the information that read your patterns, that are able to see what you're doing. So we have to be very, 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 very careful about that. Now, I did mention this before. And I wanted us to keep this in mind. And feel free again to stop me. I don't want to be the only one speaking tonight. I know that we did have a good conversation or good discussion last week. So again, feel free to stop me. But now this week, we want to look into the man behind AI, and then we also want to dig
Brother
in.
JR,
Yes, Sister Faith.
hi, good evening.
Good
God
evening.
bless everyone. Are you able to make the PowerPoint a bit larger,
Yes, what I'll do,
please?
I'll end the show, and then I will stop the share, and then I will share the screen a little better. Okay, one moment. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, one moment. Okay, is it?
If not, it's okay.
Oh
I
no,
think
I'll actually do it better. I think what I'll do is I won't share it the way I was sharing it before. I'll just change how I was doing it at that point. Just bear with me. Okay, there you go. Okay, all right. There you go. And then let me modify the way how it's being shared. Is it a little better now?
it's still small, but it's okay.
Okay, all
It's
right.
all right.
All right.
I don't
Let me
want to
see.
throw you off. It's okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because I really want everyone to see everything rather than seeing me at this point. So, let me just take the time to get that going for you before we do that.
Maybe she could pinch it out on her screen.
All right. Let me get this here. All right. I think we should be good now. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Is it a little better for you now?
Much better. I'm
Much
not seeing
better.
you though, but it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll just do this for now. So I hope you don't mind the meeting controls at the top, but I'll just do this for now so we can get through it. Um, so one thing that we want to do is pay attention to the human behind the AI, and we want to discuss the issue that we're having when it comes to conversations about artificial intelligence. And one thing that we run into is typically an issue with the viewpoint of man versus artificial intelligence. And we didn't mention it last week, we mentioned it today, that we want to really discuss what is our role and responsibility when it comes to AI. Now, I mentioned before, we are God's creation, or God's free will creation, as you see here. And I wrote down, we are made in the image of God, therefore, all tools like AI fall subject to God as counterfeit. But as a man, we shape our own intellect as God's free will creation. What we allow in becomes the negative or positive influence that we live by. Now, I wanted to pose this question, and I wanted to ask you, and feel free to jump in. What are some of your viewpoints on the human behind AI? So, one, have we allowed AI to take over? Do you feel like your phone has become somewhat of an idol? Do you notice AI active in your life as you use your technology? And that's a question that I throw out. So please do feel free to answer that. And again, you can jump on. and stuff like that. And I guess I'll take a look at the screen just to see what is happening as we talk about it. So again, feel free to jump in, stop me. Do you feel that we are indeed affected by AI and technology in general?
Praise the Lord Jesus, sir.
Praise the Lord.
I noticed with my family, not me, they are stuck to Twitter and the technology. They're always on their phone, always laughing, and they want to share all these crazy stuff with you. And then when you don't watch it because you know what they're sending to you, them upset. But they don't, the men and women, married and unmarried, they are glued to their phone in my family and my friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely glued to their phones. And again, that boils down to the AI. And I'll begin to share again soon, but even that in itself boils into the very conversation that we're having, the algorithm. I mean, we just discussed the man behind the AI. What does that demonstrate? It really demonstrates that we are faced with an issue where the AI has indeed infiltrated us, infiltrated our lives. Um, One time I was looking and I took a realization. As a matter of fact, Luke Osborne, who was on here, we were actually texting, and he said something and it stuck with me. We have so many applications on our phone, and the more applications that you have is something extra to scroll with, to scroll through, extra time that you take to scroll through the phone. Why is that? It's because as man, we oftentimes find ourselves attracted to these things. What is driving this? This is the artificial intelligence truly driving us to be so addicted to our phones. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that before we move on to the next slide, which I'll share shortly?
Sir, they wake up in the nights and they're on their phone. The phone put them to bed. The phone wake them up in the mornings.
You are so right. And that is the unfortunate aspect of it. And an unfortunate reality, I would say. Again, why is that happening? It is because man, we have allowed, and you don't be weary about that. For some reason, I'm not getting my ability to share as I would want to, but it's okay. All right. Can you see my screen now? No? Okay.
No.
Okay, one moment. Okay. All right, we just have to do the old-fashioned way. All right. So when we speak of those things, again,
Good.
that all boils down to the fact that we've allowed literally artificial intelligence to infiltrate the effects of it. It's not necessarily something that's holding your hand and telling you to do that, but there's something that it's doing to the human mind that draws us. Now, this is dangerous because we even have to look at ourselves and say, are we spending the same amount of time studying the word? Are we spending the same amount of time examining ourselves? The Bible says that it tells us to examine ourselves. How do we do that? Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, and they will say sometimes God will push you to wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes it's to pray. But as Sister Carol Hayes said, we wake up in the middle of the night and we have the phone in our faces. We scroll for 10, 15 minutes, as tired as can be, without even whispering a prayer to God, without even saying, hey, let's read a scripture. But why is that? I think I did hear someone speaking at one point, but I'll just move on. Hey, Luke, I see you. You can unmute, sir.
Greetings, everyone. Regarding the question about the man behind AI. My perception on AI is that is it is accessible. It is something that we are technically using some of the time without even knowing that we're using it. And I think where it becomes crucial is if we are not cognitive of what we are allowing into our mind, and we just consume. For example, now, well, I have the feature where if I'm if I search something on Google, the first thing that pops up is AI results. So it pretty much formulates an answer where you don't have to scroll to click on a link and so forth to dive deep into research and so forth. So we just have to make sure that we are in control of it and not allowing it to control us. Um, I'm not like a huge fan of it, but we have to accept the reality that it's here. Um, it has advantages and it has disadvantages. That's my take.
Exactly, exactly, Brother Luke. That is exactly it. It's everywhere, and I was literally gonna mention that you go on Google right now, you have well-sourced, artificially intelligent um, information that you can get. That stuff can be manipulated. That information can very well be manipulated if we're not careful. I see.
That's
Yes.
Brother Jay, that's what I was going to say. There are lots of information out there, and they're good information, but they're also mixed information, and they're also bad information
Yes.
from this AI. I know that it's a thing right now, and we need to utilize what we have, but in a good way. But I really don't like AI because I know of all the manipulation that is going on right now. And it's just, I believe, getting to that point of in time where this is just setting up what's coming, you know, with all this chip and all that they're doing right now.
Correct. One thing that was said before, everything is definitely leading towards the end times. And we'll speak about that. And one thing that we have to realize is that the devil is cunning. We know in the scripture it says that he's traveling to and fro in the earth, seeking who he may devour. And if we are not careful, the world is some of these things will infiltrate our minds. Elder Waldo, I see your hand up, sir.
Yes, I must concur with what previous speakers were saying. I ran a research the other day in Google, and it will give you a biased view of well, probably where most of the information would come from, or the popular worldview.
Yes.
Uh, because most of the information was good, but as it relates to like we are apostolics. So when I check the end of the information, now it twisted what it gave me concerning the Godhead. And so if I was not quite okay with these kind of things, I would be deceived in that area. So you can get information from it, 95% good, and there is 5% that can lead you astray. And it varies, but you have to be very careful because the information that you get can be biased.
Yes. Very biased. Very biased. I mentioned it last week. Dr. Marvin Sengwetti mentioned, he's a professor in the UK, mentioned that Chris and it's quite something that we look at. Artificial intelligence and technology in general is not Christocentric. It's not meant to necessarily support Christians, and that's not meant to necessarily support Christian values and Christian views. It helps as a somewhat support but we have to do our due diligence so we can really study properly and do certain things, because as you said, there could be a 5% variance that leads many people astray. Now, if the individuals that are feeding this information are atheists, for example, they can add something to the end of this information or this study that you're doing and lead you astray and cause you to be in a position or a place where you're confused. Because again, the information that's being fed is being controlled as it is right now by man. And the powers that be are not necessarily Christian. Again, artificial intelligence is not Christocentric. So if we lose control over our own ability to study and study properly, as Luke mentioned, control. If we lose the control and we lose the ability, many pastors nowadays rely solely on AI for their study material, which is very bad. And we'll discuss that. Sister Faith, I do see you there, so the floor is yours.
Yes, Brother JR. One of the things that I find really disturbing is that now I have an iPhone, and Apple, I updated my iPhone, and then Apple automatically turn on these features that can monitor your eye movement and all that, and take it and do whatever they want with it. I find that those things are terrible.
Yes, literally. On one of the previous slides, literally they introduced, so that must have been 18.2 and some of the subsequent updates on your phone. I believe it happened to everyone. Now there are settings that you can go in there to completely turn it off, but to be quite honest with you, you can't completely turn everything off because there's still a medium. It's still a medium by which we use to access the internet. It's still a medium by which we access the thing. It has multiple mics and speakers that are listening and tracking. If you take a selfie, even though they say that some of the most of the information is encrypted, this information is still stored somewhere. And if they want to access it, they can access it, but it's because of ethics and moral committees and technology ethics communities why they don't do it. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible. So unfortunately, even though we can turn these things off, they're not completely turned off unless you decide to come completely off the grid, which at times is not efficient for people to come off the grid unless you want to become or join the Amish community, to be quite honest with you. And
I
yeah.
understand that, brother. But to automatically turn it off, to turn it on, that they should allow people to put on what they want. The owners of the devices should be able to choose. I know I can choose. I choose, and I've basically turned off AI and in terms of all my apps on my phone. I don't even use Siri. And I know I can, people are gonna say you're using AI. I know I'm using AI in some form, but I find it really disturbing that they just put it on automatically. I should be able to control what I want. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. I'll address what you said before. Elder Prince, I see you. I see your hand raised, sir.
Thank you, sir. Just to speak to that point, I don't know if some of us realize that most of us, we get these technology and we don't read the disclaimers and the end user agreements and so forth that are included. And a lot of times we're agreeing to this sort of activity without our knowledge, because these companies cover themselves, and it's really our activity, our actions, our habits, and so forth that are feeding the AI models, are feeding the learning models. And we're given consent for them to take our information and use it for that purpose. So they cover themselves with these agreements that they have in place and with these disclaimers that they have in place that they know nobody's reading. But if we were to ever sue, they could say, well, the information was there, we provided it to you. So a lot of times it's people that are searching for things like this and they share the information and say, well, did you know that Facebook automatically turned on this feature to track your activity? Or did you know that in this latest update of the firmware or the operating system for iPhone or Android or whatever it may be, that they include these features that are tracking your activity or monitoring you in whatever way. So we have to be careful with these, with how we use technology, and be cognizant of the fact that some of the things we need to educate ourselves on and see what we are putting out there to protect ourselves.
Exactly. Some of these things are, Elder AC, I'll be right with you shortly. Some of these things again, and if you notice, when you do some of these updates, you have no choice. It literally, if you want to update, you're gonna have to accept or scroll down and press OK. If you don't want to update, you'll just stay on that same firmware. But usually some of these updates, they nest them with security updates that would say, hey, in order for your phone to work properly, to protect you from any intrusions that might happen from security analysts and from hackers, for example, security threats, you have no choice but to update your phone to some of these things. And then, of course, as they're marketing, they want you to see the new bells and whistles that they have on there, so they leave these things on. And as Elder Prince said, the fine print. But many of us don't spend time reading the pages of fine print. That we could literally be giving it all the information to our phones, and we don't read the fine print, which is why sometimes the phone seems like it's listening. But Elder AC, I see you, sir. You can have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bless the Lord, everybody. I just want to comment a little bit on what Ella Prince was just saying about that fine print. Because when you get credit cards and sometimes and they ask you about this agreement, and sometimes it's so much that you don't really have time to sit up there and read every little detail that they put in this fine print. And so sometimes you just go ahead and click, I agree to it. And so it's just like Ella Prince said, you stuck now because you can't sue. Anything go wrong, they're gonna say, well, you signed the paperwork. And so these are some of the things how technology is moving so fast that they're doing these kind of things and making us susceptible to it, and we're not even realizing it. And then later on, after things begin to happen, oh, I didn't know that. Then it's just like as Paul said, no, Peter said about we got to be sober and we got to be vigilant because the devil is he's working through these technologies right now, and just like you were saying earlier, our phones has been, oh man, these phones now. When you wake up in the morning, as you were saying, you're supposed to be praying. You grab your phone to see if somebody texts you, see what happened on the game last night. Some kind of way that phone going to draw your attention before you're supposed to do what you was originally supposed to do, get up and pray, but you grab that phone. That's the first thing you do. And the enemy is bringing so many devices through technology right now that in the church we have to be very watchful. And I look at how these young babies now, 5 and 2 years old, know how to operate a phone now. You see them, they have these technology, and these are some of the things how the enemy is working. You're giving these tablets at 2 years old and let them teach them how to learn numbers and learn colors. And my daughter put her boys in front of the TV. They sit there and watch the TV all day. I mean, these are some of the things how the enemy is working, and we have to be very watchful, because if not, we'll get caught up in all this technology is doing, and we will forget about God, and this will become our idol if we're not careful. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Exactly. I must agree. Someone was about to speak again. I'll give you the floor.
Oh, greetings, Elder. Question, you just to piggyback on what you were saying earlier about the updates. I'm wondering if some of those updates are not scams sometimes, because sometimes you want not to do it, but you don't know if you should or if you shouldn't.
So I would say this working so my day job I do work for an artificial intelligence company as a IT admin. Um, I would say so from that aspect of it, um, to have proper. It's important to do the updates because some of these hackers are really, really, really good. Some of these hackers don't have the heart of God in them, and they are able to infiltrate the phones. Remember, right now, I'll preface it by this. The current environment as it stands is that we are protected, quote unquote protected, by moral and ethics agencies within our governments that prevent some of these big tech companies from taking our information or necessarily reading our information in public. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't nest the code or the ability within some of the updates to feed some of the, because if you notice when you do some updates and you are restarting, sometimes it starts from fresh. Do you want Apple, do you want to send Apple diagnostics and things of the sort? Most of us say no. Now, Apple has also given individuals the opportunity or the choice to turn off a website's, for example, or our computer's ability to store cookies or a website. So when our IP hits the internet and those web pages start to say they want to store cookies on your computer, you have the option of saying no. So some of these updates, again, I would say they are very important right now. For now, on the surface level, we are indeed protected. And as I say, it's almost like catch 22. It's between a rock and a hard place. If you don't do some of these updates, you do run the risk of getting your information hacked and stolen. It's just the inevitability of it is shortened when you have an actual criminal that's out to do that versus when you have like big entities that are sort of um, limited in their ability to gather and take your information. So you have to just see it from those two sides. I have no choice here because a criminal who's actually really pushing for it to do it today or to do it last night is going to want to get my information, share it, and perhaps mess my life up.
Yeah.
Versus, yeah, versus doing it, and obviously we have to keep in mind and be vigilant, as Elder Prince and Elder HC said, be vigilant because at the same time, some of these big techs, they have big data banks. These data banks can get hacked. Sometimes there's insider information trading. These things are possible, but you pick the lesser of two evils, if you will. So hopefully that answers your question, Sister.
Yes, thanks. Yes, I know, because I get these emails all the times. Sometimes I'm like, what should I do? But I always consult with one of you IT persons who normally say, no, you see those things, don't even click.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know, but sometimes it concerns me because you get them so many times, you block them, they come back. It's just ongoing. Yeah.
Yes. One thing I also wanted to kind of preface this, especially to be especially IT responsible as well. I really want if for those of us, again, when it comes to being vigilant, be very vigilant as well. We don't want to be fooled we don't want to be fooled when we see some of these things. What happens is with the very same AI, because AI can manipulate or can be used within chatbots and things of that nature, it is very possible that they could mimic the real thing. And we have to be very careful, especially nowadays in my very company. We tell all of our user base, hey, pay attention to some of these telltale signs within some of the emails that happen, with some of the text messages that you will get. They call it SMS phishing or smishing. Pay attention to those things because now what they're able to do is, if you notice when you get some fake calls and fake texts and things of that nature, because of the abilities of AI, they're able to almost mimic vocal intonation of individuals. They're using AI to capture family members' voices and call you, tell you that, hey, I'm in trouble. I need $100,000. And it sounds exactly like your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. And if you're not careful and diligent enough and vigilant to make sure that it's mommy, daddy, sister, brother, you can get caught. And it's only getting better as they're starting to find workarounds and things of the sort. And as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence and technology is not meant to be Christocentric. This was not necessarily created. Last week, Sister, I think it was First Lady Bailey, if I'm trying to remember her, from Florida, she mentioned that I probably got the name wrong. She mentioned that Alan Turing was an atheist. A lot of the technology that's going forth with that are led by people that are a part of churches that believe in technical absolutes or technology absolutes, where they want technology to control and dominate everything in the world. Their interest is to see the world become like a Matrix Terminator type of world, where it aligns with only technology, eliminating the the God that we serve, literally. Literally, that is their purpose. And as we talk about that, we look and we say, you mention it. Microsoft study finds that relying on AI kills your critical thinking skills. We mentioned that before. Young people just don't possess the ability to think anymore. And it's not even only young people, it's young and old. Losing the ability to think, losing the ability to study. The cognitive abilities begin to deteriorate because we're always constantly getting hit. And as Christians, one thing that we have to understand is that we are wrestling with the world. We're wrestling with the princes and the powers of the principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness. And we have to understand that when we wrestle with those things, these are mediums that are used. Some people would say that the phone can be a portal. There was a study that stated that artificial intelligence is able to go into ancient curses and witchcraft and the occult and read these things, and these things exist. We cannot deny the existence of an opposite force to the one that to God that we serve, the good God that we serve. There's an opposite force that is led by Satan, and his demons, and that force wants to destroy us. And now, even within the pandemic, the world, some people felt like you haven't missed anything because the social media has shrunken the world. And we are so exposed to the world. Before, you can kind of say that you were protected by the lack of knowledge. But now, with the increase in technology and the shrinking of the world over time, now we're getting so much world, if you will, hitting us. And these things are not Christocentric. And even when you do follow primarily Christian channels or primarily Christian pages, there's still something that's slipped in to distract you. And then once you make that mistake, you're sucked in. But I mentioned it before as well. Pastors that solely use AI instead of sharpening their study of the scripture lose veracity or the ability. And this is not only pastors, this could be anyone in your church that teaches and uses information and technology, or teaches the scripture, teaches the word to your church. This is something that we have to be very careful of, because I have mentioned it before and we can keep going there. Artificial intelligence is not Christocentric. Artificial intelligence is not meant to support Christian views, and that information can be manipulated. And we mentioned it before, humans seek the path of least resistance. We want easy things. Now, this is not to discredit the benefits of artificial intelligence within responsible research and an awareness of what you're studying. What we should do is we should, when using the artificial intelligence to get the basic information, if you want artificial intelligence to create uh, a work page, if you will, or some homework for you, it is very good at doing that. There's a video out there by a Christian YouTuber by the name of Alan Parr, where he breaks down artificial intelligence ability to create biblical study material. That in itself becomes a benefit where you can use that. But it is our responsibilities, those who teach the word, those who preach the word, to do your deep study. Now, one thing that we look at, and I want to read that, I try to see if I can move this out the way. 2 Timothy 3, verses 1. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And in Matthew 24, verse 12 says, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Now, when we look at 2 Timothy and we look at Matthew, we understand that there's oftentimes a parallel between the moral decay of man. So if that moral decay is going downwards of man, and the love of man is going downwards, and the love of God and our intensity at which and our zeal to serve God in spirit and in truth, if it's going down, and we see that the technology and the shrinking of the world through the technology and the artificial intelligence that drives it is going upwards. When we look at that correlation, if you want to see an imaginary chart, you can see that there are parallels between the two, very obvious parallels. Now, many of the things that we see on social media only lead us to really the love of ourselves. If you have friends and family that are experiencing issues, sometimes we don't even have time to talk to them because we are so locked into the devices that becomes we become the focal point, and our satisfaction, the dopamine that we get from seeing consistent entertainment. Lovers of money, proud, arrogant. What does the world put out to you? The world puts out to you the dream of success. The world puts out to you the move on. If it's broke, don't even bother to fix it. Just get a new one. That's what the world tells you to. That's what the world puts out. All the algorithms in general are leading to sex, leading to disobedience and rebellion, crime. Everything that is interested in some of these, the gender wars that we have and the gender ideologies that we have on social media, these things are of the world, disobedient to parents, ungrateful. I have a car, but because I'm looking to buy a new car, I'm looking into cars, all of a sudden I am not happy with God, with what God has blessed me with. I want more. And then what happens is in our consumer society, this is continuously exacerbated because sometimes, again, you're on social media and you're looking and you're seeing sometimes you might have a friend, and if you have 2,000 friends on your social media, the algorithm leads you to the friend for some reason that just bought a car. And you start now to say, oh, I don't like my car. Your car is a 2023 BMW, but you want the 2026 or 2025 Maybach. And we can be ungrateful. Both cars are fully loaded, but your car is good enough. And again, unholy. Some of the things that we see on social media, again, I'll continuously push it. Social media, I mean, technology, AI, social media is not Christocentric. And we look and we see the hearts of men are waxing cold. Some of the wild things that we're seeing on social media is a testament to the fact that the hearts of men are waxing cold. So if that be the case, the powers that be are also humans, and most of these individuals are not covered, or they don't have a heart that is stayed on God, or a mind that is stayed on God. So of course they're going to go into the things of the world, pushing the algorithms that provide worldly pleasures, temporary satisfaction, reckless satisfaction. The pleasure of the instant gratification within our lives. Again, AI algorithms read into your interests and feed you with that, until at times, if you're not careful and you don't have God on your side, you'll act on them. And we have to be very careful. Now, I did mention Sam Altman. He is a part of that $500 billion investment into AI. So OpenAI is the parent company of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is also on our phones. I just wanted to let you know, ChatGPT is found on your iPhone as one of the options that you can have if you want to use that. And then you can also pay a subscription rather, on your phone to have access to artificial intelligence, and it will behave the way that it's supposed to behave. Almost your phone. Once you pay for that full subscription, you'll be able to use it like a full AI device. He said he believes that people are good, but you can imagine all the ways it can go wrong. We talk about the Stargate project. That $500 billion investment is into something called the Stargate project. And what we want to do is we want to look at the risk and the benefits of that. If you increase the information, what it's saying is that man will have the ability to go to the doctor and, with the use of AI, be diagnosed with diseases, terminal diseases, quicker. And now, because of the pandemic and what happened throughout the pandemic, with the Stargate project going well, especially within the health aspect of things, we also find out that they will be able to synthesize vaccinations at a much quicker rate. Now, if the world is in a desperate place, many of I would say, the conspiracy theories that we've had in the past, some of them are legitimately true. Documents were released on some of these conspiracies. I'm not saying all of them. We don't want to sensationalize. We can talk about that a little later. But now, with the removal or the eventual removal of regulation, they can just push some of these things. Now, if the heart of men are waxing cold, and the love of many shall wax cold, and in the last days men will be reckless and swallowing conceit, bitter, heartless, unappeasable. Can you imagine what happens when the powers that be decide that they want to be anarchists, intelligent anarchists that will use artificial intelligence to ruin and destroy mankind? Now, this is not unheard of in our history. Men with power that literally possess some of the Second Timothy bad traits that are there. Can you imagine now, when the world is shrunken with artificial intelligence and this immense power? Artificial intelligence can see, unfortunately, things and synthesize things quicker than the human mind by just assessing the patterns, looking at the blood and observing the blood, and using the history and using the observation of scientists and gathering it in record times to put together even personalized vaccination and health plans for individuals. This is something that we have to watch out for, because we also understand that when we have this false sense of the God complex, man's heart will be drawn farther away from God. Because if I can go to the doctor and I know that there's an AI-driven assistant behind my doctor that will be able to diagnose and perhaps even heal some of the diseases that I might have, I don't necessarily need to pray to a God, because I'm already taken care of, and science is proving itself. And we need to really pay attention to that. We need to be very aware of how that can happen. And we don't know when that could happen or if that can happen within our time. We don't know, and if that can happen much before, where we as the children of God even can be drawn, the very elect can be drawn away because we're seeing, wow, I had this terminal disease and I went to the doctor and they were able to give me a tailored vaccine that within a month I did not have to go through any type of chemotherapy. I didn't have to go through any of the sickness. I was healed from this sickness or this disease. These are some things that we want to think about, and we want to really keep this in mind, and as we're being vigilant. Let's go to the next slide. Now, we discussed the phones, and the phones seem to be listening to us, so we don't really necessarily have to talk about that. But one thing that we want to do, and I do have questions at the end of it, I think this is for the human behind AI. And we did talk about that, so we can actually skip that. But one thing I want to make mention of is the fact that we leave ourselves open to attack. When we're not mindful and we're not careful of what we're looking at and what we're accepting into our homes, what we're accepting into our lives, we leave ourselves susceptible to attack. And I did mention it before, but Ephesians 6 verse 12 says, before we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, with the social media and the AI-driven algorithms and infrastructure that is being invested in, driving this artificial intelligence, now some of this technology becomes an escape from reality. And I say it here, a false sense of complete comfort. Things are going on in your life, you forget to pray because you would just jump on your phone. We discussed it briefly. Wake up in the morning, supposed to pray, being led to pray. And instead of praying, sometimes as soon as you wake up, you look at your phone light is on, your phone screen is on with a couple of messages. 3 o'clock in the morning, for some reason, there's a string of messages that we look at and things of the sort. So what we want to do is really pay attention to how these things are happening in our lives. And this is where we start looking into the human behind the AI and the human, I would say, in front of the AI, the user of the artificial intelligence. Again, the artificial intelligence can mimic, can mimic its awareness. And it can even read certain patterns that you're having. It's not necessarily the phone technology that's reading it. It's the artificial intelligence is driving the technology within the device to read your patterns and to read whatever you do on a daily basis. And we need to understand that the artificial intelligence is the brain behind, again, the algorithms that we are using and the social media. And we did address it, so we can move forward here. And now we can go a little bit into the AI and eschatology. And I want to preface that by saying there's a speculative view of end time prophecy. We don't want to take a concrete view on eschatology, especially as it pertains to prophecy, because we don't want to sensationalize. We already know in the scripture that no man knows the day or the hour, the time when God will make his appearing. Elder Waldo.
Yes. Are you aware that the slides aren't moving?
Yes, I moved it on purpose.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when we look at eschatology, we want to really pay attention. So we want to look at the could be versus will be. The reason why we want to be careful of sensationalization is because if some of you remember Y2K, Y2K, according to some, was the end of the world. People were preparing for the end of the world. When we see earthquakes in diverse places, when you hear earthquake hit a certain country, you say, "Oh my God, look, God is coming tomorrow." We want to be very careful of that. That is where we have sensationalization. So this is the same with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not necessarily going to be the tool that indicates that God is coming tomorrow, but rather it is the tool that could be used in our generation as a means to deceive us or lead our hearts and minds away from what we should be doing, is looking up, for our redemption draweth nigh. And if we look into the artificial intelligence in the world right now, we can understand that it can work in tandem with spiritual deception and things of the sort. That spiritual deception is not necessarily beginning with the antichrist or the counterfeit Christ, but rather it starts today. It starts within the state of our hearts are now as it's leading up to that time. So we have to be very careful. And the one thing is too, we don't want to look into, again, sensationalizing it. We want to look into the could be versus will be. And eschatology is not necessarily something that we should be scared of. We understand that eschatology, and Pastor Alex Waldo said it a few weeks ago, it is inevitable that God is coming back for his church. But these things are going to come in. When you see these things, what we do, we look up, for our redemption draweth nigh. Now, one thing that we have to look at, and we want to look into Revelation 13. I'm going to show you an AI-generated version of this, and I want to look at it. So we can look at it. Could be AI assisted. Some of the end time events that we read in Revelation 13, like the beast, could be artificially intelligent insisted, or it could be purely supernatural, because we do deal with a God that is supernatural, sovereign and supernatural. The beast is identified as the Antichrist. Now, we're going to tie AI into this pretty quickly, and this is Revelation. We're going to talk about Daniel 7:8 and Revelation 13:7. We talk about the 7 heads and the 10 horns, and those describe world governance systems. 10-nation confederacy. Final word government consists of 10 entities. 10 nations are, and however they will come to unite. And the beast will subdue 3 of them. Then we look at Daniel 7:8, and then the rest will do his bidding. So the 7 other will do the beast bidding. And then we'll have authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. This is Revelation 13:7. So, in my following paragraph there, this is where AI can come in. If you want to have a world governance system, one thing that we can look into is the fact that, as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence and technology in general is shrinking the world. This can become a problem for us as children of God, for example. Now, if we take the premillennial and pre-tribulation view of eschatology, and I also want to keep in mind, some of us here may have different views on the coming of Christ when it happens. Some people believe in the pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, and post-trib coming of Christ. This is taking a premillennial view of it. This is assuming that we will miss the tribulation period. We could be leading up to, with the increase in technology and the shortening of the world, of our world governing system. I don't know how many of you heard of a one world government where we will have and share one currency in the world. The technology exists for this to happen. The technology through artificial intelligence exists for surveillance. Remember, we mentioned before that if the artificial intelligence in your phone, sometimes it's listening to you. If you talk about dogs and cats, few hours later, you look in your phone suddenly has dogs and cats on it. Why? Because that is a form of surveillance. All of our phones are connected to some sort of database. All of our phones and our information is connected, and sometimes we miss the fine print with that. Now, to truly control people, commerce must be controlled, the ability to buy and sell. Now, with the increase in technology and the way how, again, AI is shortening the world and you're able to have everything on your phone and do your budgeting on your phone, if you eliminate the autonomy of currency and you put everything on one banking system, our one world banking system, you become much more easier to survey. Why? Because now with the technology that we have, it can track your account. If you shrink that all the currencies in the world to one thing, it doesn't become much of a task for advanced technology. And as the information age increases and the technology is being invested in, it doesn't become difficult for a one world government and the leaders of a one world government to control the commerce, the ability to buy and sell. Now, Revelation 13 again describes how this happened. Everyone, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, will be forced to receive some type of mark. Now, that mark exists. Back in the day, they said that the mark, as the technology was increasing, they said that the mark would have been barcodes. But now barcodes have come and gone. Barcodes don't are we use barcodes almost every day. You go to your local Walmart, you go to your grocery stores, you scan you scan your groceries. Those are using barcodes and things of the sort. They said that is going to be some sort of tattoo that will be that they will put on us, that will identify us. But now, when we look at artificial intelligence, we realize that artificial intelligence is the driving force behind, again, many of this technology. We see that Elon Musk has a chip called the Neuralink. And it might not be called Neuralink during those times, but it is not out of the picture or question that we can consider that it will be a microchip that will be put in our right hands or on our foreheads in order to buy and sell. How is this microchip going to be managed? All of this information is going to be stored within a one world, or could be stored within a one world database. Now, this new system of commerce will be universal. So this will include all countries. How do you connect all countries? How are all countries connected now? Through our phones and our devices and the technology that we have. That is only getting more invasive, that is only getting more powerful, that is only getting more smarter. And how is it getting more smarter? Through the AI. Now, if we're leaning to ANI and ASI, as was mentioned before, or rather AGI, or ANI and ASI, and we're leading towards that, what if all of this stuff happens within the ANI time frame? It's not out of the picture to consider that the supernatural can also be mixed with the AI assisted of the world. It is one thing that we consider very, very important, and we have to really look into that, is that we are not deceived. Now, we don't want to give a concrete view of what is happening, but one thing that we have to really pay attention to, I mentioned it a little bit before, was surveillance. Professing Christians, we can be easily surveyed. Professing Christians can also get to a point where the moment you say Jesus, an artificial intelligent thing can pick you up, take it down. And if the powers that be are not Christocentric, or if there's an antichrist, depending on the coming, the revelation of the man of Christ, and depending on the viewpoint that you take, and if Christians are still around, you can be persecuted for calling on the name of Jesus on your social media platform. If you notice during the pandemic already 5 years ago, they were able to go through the internet and sift out information of various YouTube videos. This stuff was driven by artificial intelligence that was surveying with the help of manpower. But some of this artificial intelligence was used to survey and take down some of the videos that would put up false information on pandemic cures and things of the sort. This was 5 years ago. We're in 2025 now. The technology has only gotten better. So when we speak of Revelation 13 and we look at that whole chapter and we start to understand that it is possible that it will happen, that there will be a one world government, we have to consider that it could very well be AI assisted. And all of this information that is readily available and access will be used to support this one world government. Now, we talk about eschatology, so we looked at that. We look at the premillennial view. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but we also have people here that we say the rapture of the church. This is the pre-tribulation view, so keep this in mind as we talk about it. Now, a YouTuber, we're almost done. We're 26 of 33, and some of the slides are just ending slides. A YouTuber by the name of Nick Jones actually put out a very good question, and he asks, what is the role of artificial intelligence in end times? And this is insights from the book of Revelation. That little symbol up there, that green symbol, is the ChatGPT symbol. So ChatGPT answered this question, and we can read it. It is a sermon that it was generated, and I'll read it for you. Dear brothers and sisters, today I want to delve into a fascinating and thought-provoking topic: the role of artificial intelligence, AI, in end times. As technology continues to advance at an astonishing pace, it is only natural to wonder how these advancements align with the teachings of the Bible, particularly the book of Revelation. While the book does not explicitly mention AI, it does provide us with insights that help us discern the potential implications of this technology in the last days. Let us explore this together and seek wisdom from God's word. Point 1. A powerful deception. In the book of Revelation, we find warnings of great deceptions that will arise in the end times. Revelation 13, as we mentioned before, speaks of a beast that will deceive people with miraculous signs. It is interesting to consider how AI, with its ability to imitate human behavior and intelligence, could be utilized to deceive the masses. We have already witnessed the development of deepfake technology. And I don't know if you remember from last week, for those of you who are here, there was a video that I played earlier on where there are apps like Parrot AI that you can download on your phone and perhaps pay a subscription that will mimic celebrities, that will mimic and have the ability to fool friends, and even mimic the likeness of soccer stars. These deepfake technologies, as I mentioned before, are able to capture your voice and capture the intonation of your voice and things of the sort, and that technology is only getting better. Here, ChatGPT tells us we've already witnessed the development of deepfake technology, which can create convincing counterfeit videos. Some of these convincing counterfeit videos have gotten better and are only getting better. This raises concerns about the potential for an AI-driven deception on a grand scale during the end times. Now, now everybody in the world will necessarily be in the same area that the beast will be in. But with our phones and the increase in the abilities of these deepfake technologies, we can be watching our very phones and get fooled and deceived at that time. Next point. Point 2. Mark of the beast. Revelation 13, verse 16 to 18 describes the infamous mark of the beast that will be imposed upon humanity during the reign of the Antichrist. While the exact nature of the mark is not specified, it is plausible that AI and related technologies may play a role in its implementation. For instance, biometric identification systems, which most of us already have on our phones. Face ID, thumbprints, and things of the sort. Some of us use these things. And we're noticing how fast your phone is able to pick your face up and get you into your phone, or how quickly you can put your phone at the top or the sides or the middle of your phone, even on your screen, and get into your phone like that, reading your very fingerprint. These things were government technologies back in the day. Now we have them at our fingertips on even very budget devices, able to read your face. Embedded microchips or even neural implants that can be connected to artificial intelligence systems for monitoring and control. Such advancements raise ethical questions and remind us to be vigilant in discerning the potential dangers that they pose. Now, all of this information all of this technology does exist. Biometric identification systems, as I mentioned before, does exist on our very cell phone devices and even budget devices. Embedded microchips, the Neuralink. Elon Musk actually created this Neuralink a few years ago, within the last few years. One thing that we have to remember, and we mentioned it last week, was artificial intelligence and neural networks sort of mimic the human brain. These technologies, our brains, let's start there. Our brains have what we call neurons that communicate with each other, forming new connections to help us learn and to help us understand things. And this reestablishes connections over time. Artificial intelligence and neural networks in artificial intelligence uses something called perceptrons, which in a sense works, it tries to mimic the way how the neuron works. Now, if you have an embedded microchip that is, or neural implants that are in your brain that's connected to artificial intelligence systems for monitoring and control, and it's able to read into and mimic some of your brain patterns and things of that nature, it is very possible that it could be trying to track the very thoughts. And even some technologists in your call conspiracy theories are even saying that when you get this chip, it can track your very movement. It can track, because you're connected now to an artificial intelligent neural network that is easily tracked by a one world government that can see and determine, hey, is a group of people gathering? And what are they doing? How much of this information can this neural link take in? Could it hear, maybe not understand and hear your thoughts or perceive your thoughts, but it can it pick up and decipher brain patterns and brain waves that align with perhaps worship of God? It is very possible. Such advancements raise ethical questions and remind us to be vigilant, discerning potential dangers that they pose. I see Sister Joanne, you can take the floor.
I don't know if I came up as Joanne, but anyway, I should have changed that. But anyway, this is interesting, and you know, we're seeing all of this technology unfold and stuff like that. But is there any way of escaping this? Isn't this like what is going to happen, or this is just to say to us like this is happening, and we are now to be aware that the end is here, so to speak? Because there's no way of escaping this kind of thing.
Mhm. Yes, your observation is correct. I don't think that there's no way for us to escape it. These things, as a matter of fact, one thing that we can keep in mind is that this technology it's been conceptualized from 400 BC, not necessarily put in on paper, but everything was leading up to this time, as leading up to where we are right now, as of March 1st, 2025. One thing that we have to keep in mind for sure is that we can't necessarily escape some of these things because, again, we have been interfacing with it for a very long time. Unfortunately, a lot of us have been using AI driven things for, I would say, maybe the last 10 years, especially as mobile phone, 10, 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, as mobile phones and Google has become more readily available. As it pertains to technology, we can't necessarily escape it. We just have to be vigilant and understand that this is a tool that the devil can and will use. It's a tool of the world, not Christocentric, not God-centric, that the devil will and can use, and has unfortunately been using against us to pull us away from looking up as our redemption is drawing nigh. You can go again, ma'am.
Yes,
For
good night,
me,
everyone. This
oh,
is
John,
this
okay.
is someone else. I guess she stole my name for tonight. Yes, very interesting lesson. I'm sorry I missed it last week. But listening to what you're saying, and I'm glad that Sister Audrey actually said what she said, because I was thinking about the same thing. It is not something that we can actually avoid. AI is just a part of our lives now. And you asked a question earlier, I was gonna come in, but I really didn't get to. When
Oh,
you
sorry.
when you asked, that's fine, that's fine. You asked something about like if we think we're affected by AI. I put it in my own words, but you asked something like that, if we think we're affected by it on a daily basis, and absolutely. As a matter of fact, it is encouraged at my school that we should use AI. And I don't know if you're aware of Magic School, and there are many others, and they basically have us using them. We use them to write our lesson plans, and to do so many other things. And I am happy to hear when you were saying that we should be very careful, especially for those who will try to use these sites to prepare sermons and all that. They have to be really very careful, because a lot of the times, even ChatGPT is wrong. I asked many questions in ChatGPT that gave me wrong answer. And if I did not know the information that I actually asked to a certain extent, then I could, give the students wrong information. And sometimes I'll type back into ChatGPT, and like I would say, shouldn't this word mean so and so, or shouldn't the answer be so and so? And ChatGPT will respond by saying, yes, you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry, would you like me to correct this for you? So it's amazing. But
Yes.
yeah, there is good and there is bad with these sites. For me, it's like so good for me to actually have the Magic School and some of those other sites that I just do my lesson plan within a minute.
I totally agree, because I know about Magic School, the AI, like it helps you create your teaching plans and your lesson plans and your assignments and materials and things of that nature. So there is a benefit to it when it pertains to the efficiency and the amount of information that it does pull for you and the things that it's able to do, where you don't have to necessarily be creating lines and things of the sort. It will actually spit it out for you. The tool will spit it out. But as I mentioned before, and you mentioned it as well, we have to be very careful because, as you said, it spits out wrong and deceiving information at times. As I mentioned before, Professor and Dr. Marvin Sengwetti, he's a oneness theologian. He wrote many books on oneness theology. And then as he tried to do research on his own books, some of those books did not come up. Now, for an individual that hasn't studied Oneness theology, for example, and they're looking into understanding it. You'll be led to a variety of things that might cause you to not understand it further. And we have to be very, very careful of that. You have to be very mindful of these things. It's not avoidable. We interface with it regularly, but we just have to be very careful. We have to be very careful with what we are accepting. We have to be very careful with certain things. One thing I want us to keep in mind, and I'm not saying to go out there and take the chip. I have no intention of taking any chip or anything like that the world wants to offer. But we have to also understand and remember that this chip will not necessarily be something that we can you won't do it unknown, or you won't have the chip unknown. So there's a point where people were saying, oh, the vaccine had the chip inside of it, I'm not taking no vaccine because of the chip. Some of these conspiracy theories became almost sensationalist, so we have to be very, very careful of those things, because we can at times take it a little bit too far when it comes to the sensationalization of a lot of these things. And this ChatGPT viewpoint is just saying we just need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant in where the world is. And as I mentioned before, we don't want to take a will be view of eschatology as it pertains to AI, but rather a could be view of eschatology as it pertains to artificial intelligence, especially within our generation, because this is currently one of the main tools that's drawing a lot of us away from focusing on God. Now we can move on from there, because we have the biometrics, and we talked about the embedded microchips, or even the neural implants that are connected to the artificial intelligence systems. Elder Waldo, you can take over, sir.
The Revelation 13.
Yes.
That one is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When you look on the 15th verse, and it said he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. The image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And very interesting, John, looking from a first century point of view, would not have known technology as is. So we don't know. We don't know. But as things unfold, we're saying, oh, a lot of these things may seem possible. Well, it's possible now. Back in Egypt, when Moses did his miracle, the magicians matched him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if all of these miracles, though here mentioned in Revelation that the beast is going to do, if all of it will be supernatural, because we know only God can really give life.
Yes.
But what it seems like now, man is giving life to machine. Seem like, but it's not life like what man has, but is animation enable it to move and now to speak.
Yes.
So we really don't know what it's going to be, but we are saying, oh, all of these things are possible.
Possible. Yes.
Possible because man is allowing machine to speak, and a lot of things now that John could have seen as way back there as how could this be? This is miraculous, because John would not have known technology in this sense. So we don't know, but we see all the things are possible. The one world government, the currency free kind of thing. All of these, the communication at a click of the finger. All of these kind of things. We are seeing all of these are possible now.
Yes.
And as I said last week, some of the things that needed miracle in a supernatural sense 4 years ago, they are calling it now the miracle of technology or modern day miracles, but really is the use of machine and improvement in technology. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yes. As you said, sir, you're 100% correct. Some of there's some of it they would say is definitely open to the interpretation. Now, the power to speak, as you mentioned before, it is quite possible that it could be supernatural, as you mentioned before, or AI systems they're able of generating human-like speech and engaging in conversations. You can have conversations with artificial intelligence. It's very possible that this can happen. Very, very possible. And it's not out of the picture that it can't be artificial intelligence. So we don't want to eliminate it. Some people see it as symbolic. A lot of people, it is fair to lean, maybe not within a concrete view of it, but within this makes sense that it could work like that, where it's not naturally, as you said, supernatural. The Antichrist, as they say, is the definition of that is counterfeit. So when we look at that, you have to look at it from its original context, original written language. It's not necessarily opposing, but counterfeit. We can see and see the within that change in definition, or how we've seen it as the Antichrist is the opposing versus the counterfeit Christ. Artificial intelligence and the ability to create life and create voice is a counterfeit process. It's a process of mimicking something that is supernatural using AI, which is just a natural thing. So I personally don't write it off completely. I do personally I do give credence to the fact that it could very well be AI with the mixture of the supernatural things that must come to pass. If we see that you mentioned Moses, you mentioned in the time of Moses, when they had their rods, and the musicians threw the rods and they were able to match. That was you'd say supernatural magicianship, the occult, those things like that. They didn't have technology, but it is possible that now, because humans are, I would say, the increase in we see the technology now, this has to be something that is grand and has to be at a big scale to deceive people at such a high scale. And people are already being deceived by artificial intelligence, which is already getting more deceptive. So I do personally believe that it is very, very possible. I think I tip the scale over towards AI being being part of that process. And I think we're coming down. Okay, we spoke about that. But I'll finish that. The battle of good and evil. Throughout the book of Revelation, we witness an ongoing spiritual battle between the forces of good and evil. The rise of AI presents a unique challenge in this regard. While technology itself is not inherently evil, it can be misused and manipulated by those with malicious intent. As AI continues to progress, we must remain alert to its potential to be exploited by nefarious purposes, as well as its potential to aid in the spreading of the gospel and the advancing of the kingdom. So again, we must not fear the tool. The tool is just the tool that man has created. We are still the greatest creation because God created man. We created in God's image. So AI is not created in God's image. It's created in I would say, the image and the capture of what's going on in our minds and hearts by a man that ultimately and perhaps wanted to provide an alternative for God, provide an alternative for a deception that would lessen our need for God. As you mentioned, Elder Waldo, some of the miraculous things that people would pray and seek God. A few weeks ago, Pastor Alex Waldo were having a conversation about back in the day, people would, get sick and you have to pray and you have to seek God for them to get healed, and that healing would be miraculous. Now you can just go to the doctor, and doctor will tell you, okay, you need to do this and that, and before you know it, that person is back on their feet. Now with the increase in technology, and also with the Stargate project that they're investing the $500 billion into, now is going to be even more miraculous, because some of those long-standing historical diseases, the cancer, diabetes, some of these terminal illnesses, some of these chronic illnesses that people have, if the AI goes in there and looks into certain things, it can start to calculate and look into what is normal and what causes someone's body to operate normally, and what is causing this chronic disease, and how can we fix it? How can we come up with a cure? How can we quickly synthesize something that will help in there? Now we looked at even the form factor. We can't disregard the fact that there's something called nanobots. You've heard some of these things in our cartoons, in our children's shows, but with form factor information, remember earlier on I showed you this small USB that is able to hold 128 gigabytes of data on it. And it can probably hold a lot more. There's some of them that are probably 256, about double the amount that can hold it. Can we imagine what would happen and what would occur if they were able to get something, or get tiny technology into your body that can go through your bloodstream? If you take a pill and go through your bloodstream and connect with perhaps a neural link in your brain that's reading certain things. We can't discourage some of those things, especially when we have these possible breakthroughs in technology. Have to consider the possibilities of these things. But that doesn't help us get closer to God, but rather we're using the tool to become like God. But again, I say we should not be afraid of the tool. It's the man behind the tool that we have to be very careful of, and the man that is interfacing and using the tool. So the man in front of the tool that we have to be very, 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 very careful of, very mindful of. Just for our soul's sake, we have to be as vigilant as possible. We're almost done here. And we did talk about this, Revelation 13, verse 15, it should make an image, power to give life, as you mentioned a little while ago here in my slides. Some speculate that it's man-made creation, animated. The idea of robots today already speaking and interacting with humans. Life, as they said in the scripture, can be rendered as breath in the Greek, which is pneuma, which is also translated to spirit. We can say that this information, this on the other side, will probably lean us more towards it being supernatural, or lean some towards being supernatural, because when we look at the Greek for the word life, and you talk about spirit, we look at that, we say that it could be making some kind of image that would seem to come to life. Now again, come to life, there could be a mixture, as I mentioned before. Now again, as I mentioned before, also, since the beast is controlled by Satan, it would fit in Satan's continuing work to counterfeit God. Satan's continuing work to counterfeit what God is doing. A question that was posed is, would this image be the ultimate counterfeit? Some sort of animated being used by the beast's power, similar to what God is doing by creating man and woman in his own image and likeness. There are studies out there, there are viewpoints and research that is out there saying, humans are driven by sentience, and we understand our sentience. Is it possible that you can mimic sentience, or is it possible that a robot can be given sentience by an evil spirit? Is it possible? Sort of like a Chucky doll, where they're able to, I don't know if many of us have watched some of those things where dolls and things of the sort are endowed with spirits and things of the nature. I'm not sure if anyone has ever encountered that in your life. I personally haven't. Is it possible? I'm not saying that it will happen, but is it possible that when you create some of these AI devices, the AI things, these images that we have, is it possible that some of these things could happen? You could think of that in regards to the context of this image. We can't throw that out as a possibility. I would just say we can just be careful of making it concrete so we don't sensationalize something false. Now, to end, we've gotten to the almost basically the end. But one thing I want us to look into as we are about to close, or a few things rather. There are several technologists today looking forward to something called technological singularity. This is a point in the future where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible. Now, as we mentioned before, they're planning on spending $500 billion on AI advancements. $100 billion, by the way, has already been invested and started by SoftBank. That is happening already. This is what happens when we move to what they have called again at the beginning of the slides, ASI, artificial superintelligence. This is the point where in the future technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible. When you remove ethics, when you remove morality, when you remove regulation from some of these tools, what else happens? There's no control. The technology grows and becomes irreversible. We did mention last week, does this open the door of possibility to a Tower of Babel incident where God just looks down and says, nope, can't, no more. Have to scatter them. Have to stop this. Very possible. I would also ask you if you do have time, Google Anthony Lewandowski. They have a religion called the Way of the Future. Very interesting read. I will definitely take some time to do that. And my last question to you, and you can leave this as a thought because I know it's getting pretty late now. Could the beast utilize technological singularity or ASI or artificial superintelligence level and leverage this in an evil way to deceive and control the world? Can the devil use this technological singularity as a ploy through the beast to really control the world? I would definitely ask and think about those questions again. And I do ask of you, please, as we're closing, be as vigilant as possible. And I said this before, it's not the man, it's not the tool, it's the man behind the tool. It's not the tool, it's the man or the powers that be behind the tool. Let us be mindful of ourselves as we use these things and as we interface with them. Is it affecting our hearts? Is it affecting our service to God? Has it affected our minds? Are we losing the ability to pay attention even within a non-church context? Do you feel that there's a deterioration in your ability to think and think critically? Are you finding that you're unable to focus even in church? Are you finding that, to be real, when you fall in sin, it's very difficult for you to pull yourself out and seek God when your phone gets a lot of the attention? Are you noticing those things? We have to be very careful. The AI is designed to draw us, really and truly. These algorithms, these big tech companies want you to consistently interface with their applications. They want you. It drives their money up. That is how that's how Mark Zuckerberg makes money. This is how Amazon makes money. This is how all the social media CEOs and moguls earn their money. It's by the usage. And if I can grab as much people as possible and keep them on my application, I will earn more money. And we live in a time where man just wants more money. So what do? They back their infrastructure and they feed the algorithms with the artificial intelligence, and they feed it with the neural abilities that these tools possess. We have to be very careful. One thing I would ask everyone in conclusion, keep an eye out for the development of new technologies and assess how they can affect your life. Let us not be blind to the new things that are coming out, but rather let us pay attention. A lot of things are coming out to affect us. A lot of things are coming out. Do research on them. If you do have the opportunity, read the fine print. I know a lot of us skip over the fine print, but as I said before, Apple introduced an update that put AI on all of the Apple devices, all newer or fairly new Apple devices. That means something. That means a lot. How can your finances be affected? Negative and positive. Your job, negative and positive. Privacy through surveillance. And I said it before, your service to God, your heart posture, mind, and spirit. Right? And just to end it off again, and conclude with this point that I mentioned a few times before, AI is not inherently Christocentric. It's not meant to protect Christians. It's not meant to protect what we believe. So we have to be diligent in our research, study, and even our casual intake. Someone mentioned, I think it was Sister Claudia Reynolds Bailey, monitor your children's intake. Monitor your children's intake. The world is increasingly, even the hearts of men and the love of men are cold. People are wicked. They don't care anymore. And sometimes if you're not careful, you'll see your kids watching certain things. Sometimes these things slip through the cracks. Sometimes it takes one video, and even when you're on kid-based aspects or kid-based pages, sometimes the powers that be don't monitor, don't regulate things as much. And now that we're moving towards a time where there's a lot of recklessness, a lot of I don't care, I just want to earn an extra dollar. Those regulations, some of those committees, some of those barriers to your children's protections, even our protections, are blocked. And some of these things, because they're so automated by AI and being fed by AI, some of these things again slip through the cracks. And one thing that we must look to as I end, Luke 21, verse 28, and I'll just paraphrase it. Look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. These things, as Pastor Alex Waldo said 2 weeks ago, it is inevitable. Whether it is pre-tribulation, whether it's post-tribulation, mid-trib, it is inevitable. We have been in the end times. We have been living in the end times. Some people would even say that in other parts of the world, the end times have been happening. It's just that our reality in North America, for the most part, and I would say the Western Hemisphere, we've been protected. Many people will say that we are living in end times. So it's fair for us to look and continuously keep our eyes open. We don't know at any point when that tide could shift. And we don't know how strong we will be if we continue to have our phones become like idols in our lives. So I pray that we all, as I conclude and hand over to Pastor Waldo, that we will pray and be diligent, that we will pay attention to if the phone has become an idol in our lives, if AI has been working against us as we're looking to be redeemed by God. And we want to see God. I want to see God. I don't want AI to get in the way of my ability to see God. I don't want the next algorithm, or as my friend Luke said, another thing to scroll on to cause me to lose my salvation. I want to make sure that when the trumpet sounds, if I'm here, that if I'm dead, I will arise, or I will be caught up. And I pray that we will all keep that in mind as we continue to live on this world and interface with the technology and the things that will be. May God bless you all. May God keep you in His grace and His mercy. And thank you so much for listening to me for the last 2 weeks. May God bless you. And I'll have at the service to Elder Waldo. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Minister Simon. Lord, God bless you, sir. Thanks for this great presentation. All right. One thing before I let you go. On this platform, there is a thing called AI Companion. What's that? The Zoom platform. You're muted. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, let me see. Okay. So with the AI companion, essentially what it does is it allows, so if you want to do like live research and you want to use third-party applications and things of that nature, it will pull information, it can pull information from any like data banks that you have or from the very internet quickly if you need it. I use it at work sometimes, not necessarily to do it because at my workplace, it feeds information. But what it does is if you're doing a presentation like I'm doing now, you can go on, of course, paid. You can add information from your data sources that you're doing. So I have my main notes, for example, and say, for example, I don't want to switch back and forth between my notes and the screen that I'm using to support. So I'm showing everyone the PowerPoint. The AI companion allows you to put that information in it, and as you're speaking and you're getting to your points, it's putting your next point out and it's putting all your informational facts there on the page. So it makes your Zoom experience, especially when you do a lot of presentation, a lot of heavy information presentations or a lot of content filled information presentations rather, makes it a little easier for you to do those and do it in a smooth way. We're not looking back and forth on secondary screens. You're seeing everything pop up. So that's what it do. It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very